Hello, Vibrant Ones, and welcome to Vibrant Health and Wellness Coaching. I am your Vibrant Health and Wellness Coach, Linda Howard, and I am tapping in with you today for a special segment or a special webinar, and it's titled Pathways to Your Vibrant Health. I just want to give a little background on Vibrant Health and Wellness. My motto is lighting the path to a brighter and healthier life. So what I provide is coaching services for groups and individuals that help my clients in ways of providing support, accountability, resources, and information to people so that they will be in superposition, if you would, to make an educated decision as to how they can increase or sustain their vibrant health and wellness. So Audree is my second guest, and I believe that she is one of those lights. I can tell you that she has been an inspiration to me. She's impacted my life. I don't know if she knows how much, but I've been watching her for years. And we'll get into just how I came acquainted with her. I'll let her do that in terms of giving you insight as to what she provides. But Audree is a nutritionist. She's a cancer conqueror. She is an author. She is a mother and a grandmother, a wife, and so much more. She's smiling. I don't know how she makes time for all of it, but she is so gifted in pouring into other people's life. So with no further ado, I will introduce to you now and reintroduce to others, Miss Audree Lee. Hello, Audree.
Linda, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you taking the time out just to care a little bit and love on some of the people during this time.
Yes. So we had some questions and just some things that we wanted to cover while we were here together. And I don't want to keep you. I know that you have a heavy schedule during this time. But what I want to do is just off the top, hear your testimony and find out, how did you begin your natural health journey?
You know, a lot of people want to know how to do health. I wasn't looking for a health journey. You know how some people are looking when they get older at this time. I was very young at the age in my 30s when I had a bout with breast cancer, 6 months after my mother passed away. And a lot of people, of course, didn't know that it wasn't something that I just decided that I would want to share around, but that's actually how this door was really open for me. But the bigger thing for me was that my mother and father, both having had cancer, dying at the young age of 50, I saw them pretty much deteriorate and just leave here. And, you know, you, as a young person, you're wondering, what could I have done? What should I have done? And I didn't really know. I mean, when people get cancer and we hear that word, it's just a place of fear, and you kind of are looking like a deer in headlights. So when I was diagnosed, one thing I did know was that I was not going to do chemotherapy or radiation. Now, I don't know, at that time, I know that may have sounded crazy to a lot of people, but I didn't even know what I was going to do, but that I knew I wasn't, because I never saw anything get or go towards health. It seemed like it always got worse. So I actually, believe it or not, my grandmother told me to go see a doctor right at Oak Park Hospital. His name was a doctor that she worked with. And Dr. River. He's passed away. He was old.
Okay.
But she asked me to go see him, and I did, because he was an expert with fibroids and cyst and tumors of that nature for women. And he told me to change my diet. And although I probably looked at him like he was crazy too, like, change my diet, but I was desperate and I said I would do that. And that's what I did. Wow. And although I only had 90 days before my surgery, he told me if I could give him those 90 days, he could pretty much give me a better sentence than what I was given. So I decided to do it. And as I did it, not knowing what it was doing to me, not even understanding the foods I was taking off my plate and watching people around me still eat them, what was I really doing to myself? When I realized going for my surgery, I noticed through those 90 days that my tumor kept shrinking and shrinking to the point where I just got a vision one day, and the Lord showed me that I was going to be going to church one day and the pastor would pray over me and that tumor wasn't going to be there. And that's exactly what happened. I went to church the
Wow.
Sunday before my surgery. The surgery was due that
Mhm.
Monday. The doctor that actually diagnosed it was a patient of mine, a client of mine. I did nails. I had a beauty salon at the time.
Okay.
And she didn't tell me that it was cancerous. She never told me. She would always ask when she came in how I was doing, but never told me it was cancerous because she knew my mother had passed away. And she told me she didn't want me to be in a place of fear. So, and
Oh,
I'm really
wow.
so grateful that she did that, because your mind could go kind of back and forth. You kind of know when you're talking to people and they're not quite sure, but they're doing everything you tell them to. But I did. And I stayed to the course. I removed the foods off my plate. I'm sure we'll talk about what some of those things are, because people are probably wondering, what did you take off your plate? But in 90
Yes.
days, my body had no tumor, no mass in it, to the point where I came to them telling them the tumor was gone, and they said there's no such thing as a disappearing lump. And for me to prepare myself for surgery at the same time. And I said, but I don't want to have surgery if nothing's there. I don't know why would one do surgery. He says, well, you never could be too sure. And I was like, oh, okay, well, and mind you, my husband was downstairs waiting for me, because that was my plan, to tell them I was not doing surgery and come downstairs, and I couldn't. And so when I woke up from recovery, there he was, but also was the doctor's assistant telling me, Mrs. Saunders, I know that you were so concerned about your journey and this whole situation, because he checked me before I went in. And I said, well, could you just check me before I go in? He said, sure. So he checks my breast. And he goes, well, was it the left or right? I said, well, you can check the other one. And he checked the other one too, and nothing was there either. He said, well, the surprising thing is that wherever it was, there was some scar tissue there, but there's absolutely nothing there. And I was so grateful. I could not wait to share the news with my husband. Was right there when I woke up from a course and recovery, saying, you had surgery. I thought you weren't going to do that. And I said, if I told you what I had to go through to not get out those doors, but it ended up to be a great report. And that's pretty much how I got on this end in 90 days of changing things.
90 days.
90 days.
Wow. I can say praise the Lord. Did
Yeah.
they tell you what stage the cancer was at?
I'm told that, the different sizes of the lumps, I could tell you that it was the size of my knuckle, that
Okay.
size. My husband was the one that actually found it. And if I'm not mistaken, I know the smaller size is the size of a pea. So when I was told somewhere between stage 3 and 4. That's what I was told.
Wow.
But the biggest thing I was told was that because my parents had cancer, that's why I did. And I said to him, my parents were smokers, and I don't smoke, I don't drink, so I don't get the connection that I would have something that they had because of something they did that I don't do. So that didn't register for me. So I never received that story.
Okay. And how long ago was this again?
This has been 31 years ago.
31 years.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have you come back for follow-ups?
I did. I would go for my checkups, and all the way through even my 40s, clean bill of health, and now I'm in my 60s. And
You look fabulous.
thank you. Still having had a clean bill of health, but I still do everything that I did then. I still do it today. Probably even more extreme now than I was back then, because I'm older.
Oh, wow. So have you seen other areas in your life improve? Not only the mass going away, what were some other changes that you saw?
The wonderful thing about God, when he heals the body, he doesn't look at the one thing that you're complaining about that you want fixed, because he can see everything that you can't see. So everything that I could think of that I would complain about, I noticed was corrected. From migraine headaches, severe migraine headaches, that I would actually have to turn off the TV, the lights and everything, and sleep in the dark because it was so bad that I wish I could carry my own head around. I was on a very dangerous medication for bad cramps as a child till, my older age, 30s, and removed off of that. No skin rashes I used to have, none of that. Constipation, none of that. Everything that I complained about was gone.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And that's what I often hear about natural, food, period. It's not like pharmaceuticals. It's not addressing one thing. If anything's wrong in the body, it will address everything. You can't tell nature what to,
What
focus
to?
on. It's going to focus on anything that's not right.
Yeah, I liken it to the fact that when we go to a doctor, they have specialty areas. So they're only going to work on fixing the area that they've been trained in. But
Absolutely.
the Lord is trained in all of it. So he doesn't need to send
I
you to a
like that.
specialist because he is the specialist. And I like it like that because when you go to him, you get a bonus. It's almost like you're going to him to talk about what your dad looks like and he cleans the slate. That's
Come
what he
on.
does with your health.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So this was a more personal endeavor for you. I know for me, I was never diagnosed with any disease, but like you and your mother and your father, same thing in my family. It's either cancer or diabetes. Yeah. So for me,
Watching
it's
it.
been more of watching that happen in my family, knowing through the word of God that that wasn't my plight or my destiny, but at the same time, understanding that the body is the temple and we have accountability in terms of serving the temple or
Yeah,
maintaining it.
right.
Yes, I just prayed and asked God to show me what to do, and He has. And it's been, I don't know if I share this with you, but it's been over 18 years since I've taken medication or been sick.
Oh, wow. That's
I don't
awesome.
catch colds, I don't get flu, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm.
Yes. So how long did it take for this new reality to sink in? Like, so I know it was 90 days with the surgery, but after that, was it difficult for you to keep the same protocols in terms of the diet or the new way of eating? And was your family on board with you?
No. Answer that first. No. And my
Okay.
husband still ate and was eating everything he wanted to. And if anybody's ever attended my classes, they would hear me talk about him hiding food around the house and stuff. Didn't allow him to bring any animals in the house. Couldn't be in the refrigerator. If he had animals, he had to bring them in himself or eat them from somebody else. Because I
Well,
said,
let's hear, you're talking about dead animals.
oh yeah, yeah, every animal that used to have
Right.
fur that doesn't fur anymore.
Eyes.
Yeah, Liv's face and had a mama, so I would not allow those things in my house. And everybody knew. They said, "You all don't have no meat in the house." No, we don't have no meat in the house. And I said, and for a reason, because I just that I don't choose to eat meat. But I remember when I was teaching, and people said, "That's that lady that doesn't want people to eat meat." I said, "No, I don't want them to eat meat, but they don't understand why. If they knew the why, maybe they would
Right.
understand why they either need to cut back or get off of it, because
Right.
there's a reason."
Right. So at that time, did you find because what I find is that when you start doing something, it's like your intentions draw the same spirit to you. What I mean is that other people that are in that lifestyle, it's like when you desire to buy a car, you make your mind to buy a certain car. All of a sudden you're seeing that car everywhere.
Right, right. Well, and even at my relatives, I don't know whether they charge me with a scarlet letter, if you will, but when we would go to funerals or any kind of event where there's eating going on, I would never forget we went to this funeral, and the funeral was so long, everybody was starving, including me. They thought that I was going to buckle down and cave in. So at the end, when we came back for the burial to the church with all the dead food that helped get that person in the casket, as I always say, they were like, "Aren't you going to eat anything?" I go, "No, I don't eat that anyway, so I'm not about to eat it now." They said, "But aren't you hungry?" I said, "I am, but I'm not hungry for that."
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I don't want it to make my body feel worse than what it feels. I'm hungry, but I don't want to be hungry and sick. So I usually would keep nuts and things like that in the car, and I just went to my nuts and stuff and headed home.
That's what I call commitment, determination, and God power.
It does take a lot of God power and people around you. Every place you go are eating foods that are not so good for them.
And years ago, before everything was so accessible in terms of, well, I mean, what the food that God provided us has always been here, but now there are these vegan, vegetarian options that I think a lot of people use now to help them cross over to that
Right.
clean, plant-based, whole food
Right.
diet. How was it for you finding variety.
There were not a lot of things. And I wasn't into the substitute meat thing personally, because I felt that if it was something I shouldn't eat, why am I trying to eat a substitute of it? You know?
Right.
It's already not good. I'm trying to eat something that's like it was. I didn't get that. So I don't eat those things today either. But you know what? I found some things that really helped me. Like one of the things that somebody told were mushrooms. Mushrooms are really good for anyone with cancer because they're cancer fighting foods. And so to me, mushrooms, depending on the way you cook them, they could almost taste like a piece of chicken because they pick up the flavor and the seasonings of a piece of chicken. So I would use that in my mind because, you know, everything is about what you see and what your mind thinks. I would pretend like I was eating some chicken, you know. I even made a crock pot lasagna, and my father swore that he had the one with the meat in it. I said, now he must not remember who he talking to, but amen. I just say amen.
And sometimes if you don't tell, I mean, I don't like withholding information, but if you don't tell people when it comes to like mushrooms, you really don't taste
They
the
don't
difference.
know. Mm-hmm.
And there's so many species of mushrooms.
They are. You can
right?
even pulled pork with them to, you know,
Seen that.
throw them in your soups and I mean, they're just to me the best substitute. I make mushroom stroganoff instead of beef stroganoff. Everything I can substitute with them, I do.
Just for information, what's your favorite mushroom?
Oh, there's a couple of them. Reiki, shiitake. I love the mushrooms, period, because they give me the opportunity to have varieties of meat dishes. I haven't found one that I didn't like. Let's say that.
Okay. I did ask you prior to this if it was okay if we talked about where I first encountered you or met you was at the ministry where we both were planted at the time. I moved to Chicago in 2002, and I believe it was 2004, headed up one of the ministries there. It was called the Nutrition Ministry. Is it okay if we talk about that?
Oh, sure.
So I hear Pastor mention that we have a graduating class, and you walk on stage and you give an introduction, and then all these people come on stage with you. And then he allowed a couple of people to give testimonies, because I'm wondering, like, what is this, a nutrition ministry? And that's exactly what it was. So I think it was about 3 people that gave testimonies, and they had things such as, fibroids, women saying how they looked like they were pregnant. I distinctly remember one person saying that they were on 12 medications. Another one said they had high blood pressure. And when they finished the program with you, it was all gone. And let me tell you how God fortified that. About 2 weeks after that, we had an associate pastor that was teaching one Wednesday night. And he said, I don't get sick. And immediately a voice in me said, well, that's not true. Everybody has to die of something. And I heard another voice say, shh, listen, write down the scriptures and then go study them. And I studied those scriptures, and then I realized that it was illegal for disease to be in my body or even attempt to touch me. And then what God did is he expanded on what I was already doing, because when I moved to Chicago, I had already given up beef, pork, all meats. I would be considered a pescatarian. I just started thinking more, and then I would listen to people that I heard had taken your instructions, and I started adding to that.
Well, I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that God uses us, and that I remember David Winston saying one time in a sermon that he gave that every one of us has a purpose, and each one of our purposes are connected to someone else's. And if we don't stay in the lane and in the path for ours to manifest, we cause somebody else to miss theirs. So I'm grateful, because I almost didn't accept this challenge as I thought it was by Pastor Hearn at the time. But he told me when he asked me to be a head of the nutrition ministry, well, you have 3 days to think of it, and then when you come back, I just need 8. And I thought, well, that's really just giving me a couple of days off to just sit down someplace. And that's what it was. And not even knowing what I was going to present or share, I kind of walked it out by faith.
Wow. So did you have a team, or did you just did he find out about your success with the cancer, the outcome?
My story was always known because I attended the nutrition classes first. They were headed up by Portia Smith, I think,
I
originally.
remember, yes.
Yeah, with Christy Dotson, who became the head of the nutrition ministry. She got called to another assignment. And then I was actually had joined her as an assistant working with the ministry. And
Got it.
when she told the ministry she was leaving, they didn't want the ministry to go under. So they asked me to head up the ministry. And I looked at them like, not me, a push. And although I didn't know how and what I was going to start with, I just walked it out by faith, and God started revealing things and leading me into directions that opened this door.
How long were you in that position over that ministry?
10 years.
How many people do you think served in that
Thousands. Because in
capacity?
the beginning, remember, back then there were no emails and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't even
Wow.
keep track of a lot of the information and the people's testimonies, because every time there was a testimony, my mind was blown. And mind you, we could only share 3 or 4 maybe on a Sunday. But if you heard when we would
Exactly.
have graduations, the amount of testimonies, I would say there would be about 75% of the class that would have testimonies to the caliber of what people were hearing.
Can you give us insight as to what some of those testimonies? I mean, I know I just shared what I
Oh my,
heard.
oh my God. You know, diabetes being gone in a
Okay.
short time, all types of cancers, fibroids, from 28 fibroids to 8. One lady left the hospital because she was to have surgery,
Mm-hmm.
and they told her to come to the class. Her neighbor told her to come to the class. Her children tried to block her from the class, from coming
What?
to the class. She came to the class with her hospital band on because she had gallstones, and they also wanted to remove her gallbladder. Well, I can tell you she never got that removed, and her body totally restored from that. But one of the biggest ones that yeah, there's so many that I'll never forget, because there were some that were so close to death that blew me away, too. But
Mm-hmm.
one of them that I can remember that stands just, I mean, this lady who was hoping to be pregnant and had been going and spending all this money to doctors with all the different therapies that they do to get people pregnant. And I said, well, if you would change your diet, maybe your organs inside might listen. And sure enough, within 5 weeks of the class, because the class is
Mm-hmm.
3 months long, she was pregnant. And I remember meeting her when she was 5 months old, 5 months pregnant. And I remember her when she shared when she had her baby, all from changing her diet, because she never ever went for the last session of whatever it was that she was going to do to get pregnant, and insemination and all that. She did it through God's plan.
Amazing. So I want to talk about inside out solution. But before I do that, in the capacity that you serve, did you recognize that those individuals had a quicker success because of the community that was there and the accountability that was provided?
I would say absolutely. Like minds think alike. The spirit. I believe God had such an anointing at that time over the ministry. Even the people that volunteer, we had the program such that if you graduated and there were spots to fill to be volunteers, because we had to cut it off at a certain point, that they got to volunteer. But I ran a pretty tight ship because I believe the Lord told me to. If I was going to walk the walk and talk the talk, all the people in the ministry had to too, because I didn't want them to cause anybody else to slip. And I remember Pastor Hearn
Absolutely.
sharing a message about that. So if I found somebody that wasn't toting the bail like they were supposed to, they were actually removed from the ministry. And so I would test them from time to time. When the students were in class or in session, we all were in session. We held ourselves accountable in doing the class every time over as if it was the first time. But when they had to learn how to do the cooking segments, because cooking segments in the class, where they had to, after I would teach, they had to demonstrate the foods. Like they did a transformation of their kitchen, and we called it the kitchen makeover, where they would put I called it a salad bar in the kitchen, in the refrigerator. They would create that so they could eat from it, and how to eat no matter what time of day it was, what they were going to prepare, because everything you prepare is right there, but most people don't because it's not ready. So that's something that we did. And that really kept everybody accountable, but we had some awesome volunteers. We had about 20 volunteers that headed up that
Wow.
program. When we started it, it was in one of the small rooms at Living Word, where it only sat
Mhm.
about maybe 40, 30, 40 people. But every
Mhm.
time we had it, we had to get a larger room to end up holding it in the annex, where it would hold 100, but the annex held more, so we could hold more people and invite more people in.
100 people were involved at one time?
Oh, most of our classes were 100 people or more. And
That's
we would even
amazing.
also offer it to outside people to come in, because I heard other churches that came to our classes that I didn't even know they were from other churches,
Mhm.
but even they got to attend the class, and hopefully they were able to take it and duplicate it outside.
Wonderful. And I just want to give insight and a shout out to Pastor Bill Winston, because we're talking about Living Word Christian Center. And I believe that is so progressive. It brings to mind 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 23, where it's about God preserving us blameless, spirit, soul, and body until the coming again of Christ Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit is important, the soul is important, but the body is where we live out in this realm.
Yes.
And like I said earlier, we have to be accountable to the temple that we live in. At what phase did Inside Out Solution, at what point did that come into existence?
After teaching there for so long, a lot of churches, as I mentioned, outsiders would come in, would start asking, would I teach it at their church? Or could I do a teaching on a week, like a mini series on a Wednesday service that they would have, or on a Saturday? And so I was like, that's really gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But my husband prodded me, my children prodded me and says, Mom, you can do it. You're already doing it's the same stuff. And so that's how Inside Out came about. I wasn't sure what I was going to name it, but that's how it started. And so going out to the highways and other places, traveling from Florida, I mean, all over, I can't even tell you. And we even did some online classes, because we had another pastor that had a desire to have it on online, because people couldn't get to some of the live classes. So they wanted the people that weren't able to be able to attend. And so that was a pretty big one too. We've done it at Pastor Reggie Royal with his church Lifeline. That's where I'm a part of now. Mm-hmm.
And kudos to Pastor Royal, because that's awesome.
He's a graduate. He lost 60 pounds. He had 30 more to go when leaving the class. He wanted to continue the journey, because it is a journey. This is a lifestyle. This is not something that you do one time and then that's it. It's not, it's all or nothing. You got to be all in to win it. And it takes every day to do it.
That's right. That commitment. And I love how there's a scripture that says, freely you receive, freely I receive, freely I give. And that's what you did, because it took 90 days for you. And that's the model that you shared with others. Amazing.
Well, one of the things that God told me about that 90 days, because people would ask me, why did I name it 90 Days of Purpose? Because at Living Word, it started off to be 4 weeks. Then people didn't want to leave. We moved it to 6. And that wasn't enough. They said, can we come another 2 weeks? So then it was 8 weeks. So God just showed me one day, I was going home. And here in Chicago, we can pass through every season in a day or a week.
Yes.
Right? So that particular day, I was running a morning boot camp for women. And the Lord said 90 Days of Purpose. And I'm like, that was when that Purpose Driven Life book was out. And I thought maybe he was telling me to read that. No, he said 90 days of purpose. It takes 90 days for the seasons to change. And so people's lives can transform their health in 90 days. And that's how that came about.
What have you noticed to be the greatest hurdle for people, either ones that need it and they know they need it, ones that need it and they're not sure if this is really for them?
I would say the biggest hurdle, because we're doing it in the churches, they're walking by faith through the whole thing. But this food has a stronghold on people. And if I pick the food that really has the most stronghold, I want to say there's 3 actually. The first one will be meat. The second will be dairy. And the third one will be sugar. Yeah.
And why do you say that?
Well, I say that because, we've been conditioned to eat meat. We've been trained and taught to do it. And so we don't understand that when you're told not to do it, we're told not, don't do it, but never a why. Well, in that class, there's a whole lot of whying going on. And I want them to know why. Every week we'll move them off of a food. So in other words, I would give them an upgrade in their health by giving them something to replace that thing that we removed, that dead thing. And I think that made the difference. And that's what made it stickable or doable, because some weeks were more difficult than others. But dairy is another thing people have a very hard time with, because it's found in just about everything. It's on top of everything. It's in everything. It's hiding. It's not hiding, but it's there. And so they're drinking it, they're eating it, and it comes in so many forms. So that will be the second one. But the biggest one is people that have the sugar addictions. But when they find out that it's so similar to eating cocaine, they can't, but I wouldn't eat that. I said, we're already doing it.
Right.
But the biggest thing here lately, Linda, is oils. That I don't cook with oil. And even in the class when I said, they go, what do you mean you can't cook with oil? It's olive oil. I said, yeah, but a lot of you are using canola oils and all those. But let me just say this. If you had to eat a teaspoon of oil, would you do it? And they go, oh no, it doesn't have a taste. I said, that's my point. So you've been conditioned to use it to cook with. So your food, and it can, you're easier to prepare your food. But when you think about 120 teaspoons per serving, per teaspoon, 120 calories per teaspoon, that's a lot of additional calories that you don't want. And you can fight that without fighting by just getting it off the plate or stop cooking with it. So I said, use broth to saute, use water to saute, use juices to saute. And when they did that, then the weight would drop. I'm talking about so fast. I mean, it was making a lot of people's head spin on top of the other things we do. Get that fat off the plate. If you don't want to eat fat, don't eat it.
That's simple.
I'm just saying. Nobody wants to be bothered. I used to say, ain't nobody got time for fat. I said, Jesus didn't fry, and neither do I. But you have to decide what you're going to do. But I had lots of phrases that I would say in class that would make people remember, the things that were good and bad for them.
Got it. Can you give us another type of substitution? So you just told them to use the broth for the oils.
So I like to use for salt. I don't tell people to when it comes to salt. I said salt can be really damaging for people that are dealing with high blood pressure and things like that. So there are some. I use a Himalayan salt every once in a while, but then you have to be mindful of that. But more importantly, I use believe it or not, lemon pepper, because it tastes like it. And if you squeeze lemon on anything, it gives the salt flavor to the taste buds. Because when I teach on sour, sweet, and bitter, all the taste bud issues that we have, I explain why you have that problem, what organ is connected to it. So as I say, I don't tell people to stop doing stuff without a why. But for salt, it's really important. That white table salt, as it is, I tell people if the food is white, don't take a bite. So that falls in that category.
If you could give us a little insight on your modules that you take people through, or just, is it, I know it's the food, but what other things do you touch on in your training?
Yeah, I deal with so many cancer patients. That's probably the biggest part of what I do. But when I do that, it's not just about the foods, although we know that our food should be our medicine and our medicine should be our food. I also want to make sure they get good sleep. I said, that God's plan represents that. It's godly trust, open air, daily exercise, sunshine, proper rest, lots of water, always temperate, and nutrition. And that acronym is what I teach and taught in the class. They had to follow those 8 doctors. I call them doctors. That's why when we would come to the front, you would see us in those jackets. Every one of those people represented one of those doctors. Okay, so when the students reported to them, they would have anywhere from 10 to 12 students that reported to them. They would know that their leader was Dr. Exercise or Dr. Sunshine. And we had teaching about each one of those doctors to understand why they were part of health. And then here lately, when I was teaching a lot of it, when we got to the nutrition part, of course, it got really expanded. And so in the teaching for nutrition, we talked about the foods and how to transform the kitchen. But another one is we taught how to make homemade remedies like nature's penicillin, a poultice for a sore, all kinds of things. I bought us some of the things that I used to do here with me just in case I had to pull something out. But even how to do a natural mask on the face using molasses. They got to do all this stuff right in the class because I wanted them to know how to do it. And so one of the things that really is a part of what I do now are essential oils, because essential oils, just like in Genesis 1:29, where God told us about the foods that we should eat and where they should come from, there are no processed foods hanging on a tree. We all know that. And there's no meats hanging off. There's no pork chop tree and no chicken tree. There's none of that. But in Genesis, that's where our foundation is for us to learn and know what to eat. But in Revelation, just in case we missed it throughout the Bible, he let us know in Revelations 22:2 that the herb shall be for the healing of the nation. And every herb that we eat, we season our food with it. The herbs have power. They open up, our nasal cavity. They change our whole being because it's connected to who we are. We were created from the soil, and so were they. But when you can use an essential oil, which is more powerful than an herb because it's 50 to 70% more potent, that's when healing really I want to say gets in the fast lane, if you will. So I've seen people that pain goes away almost instantly. I've seen people even with cancers that in a very short time of just getting on the oils, the body starts the restoration internally, and they start talking and telling us. And so I've gotten very much involved with that because it really has become us the segue of pulling people in, because sometimes you can't get people off that pork chop, but if I can get you off of that
or that bacon,
that's right,
no condemnation,
or them donuts with that coffee. I said, well, come on in here, with this oil, because we got that, blood pressure down, or we got that diabetes down, where they have no more elevated sugar levels. They want to know more, and that's pretty much how I've been able to do that.
Wonderful. And I want to let everyone know that you introduced me to the oils. And just to give you, I don't know if I ever told you this testimony, the week that I got the oils in the mail, my son came down with some type of virus where stuff was everywhere. And he was out of school for 2 days, going on the third day. I went home for lunch, but as I was walking out the door from my office, a voice just said, take the oils with you. I got home, I put oregano on the bottom of his feet, and I believe it was, I can't remember the name, but there was one that I rubbed on his belly.
Digestin.
And then, what was the name?
Digestin.
That'll order some more of that. And because he was having severe headaches, I put peppermint on his temple and on the back of his neck. Now, mind you, he had not eaten in days. I saw him looked like he was wasting away and just vomiting and everything else. I left him, came back to my office, and within 15 minutes of me being in my office, he called me and asked me if there was anything in the house for him to eat. I was like, what?
Well, I believe that Jesus used them in the Bible, considering they were brought to him.
I believe that, yes.
Frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense, myrrh, and gold. Those are the three things we bought. Now, we're after this gold, but they used oils, and they were more valuable than gold.
Yes, they were.
So I believe that they're here today for a reason. I really do, because a lot of people are having some difficult times, and some of it is all this is connected. It's all connected as far as I'm concerned.
All right, climate with the COVID coronavirus, what's your greatest concern, or the question that I have here is, what type of reset are you hoping our community, country, and world will have in the midst of this, or as a result of this coronavirus pandemic?
And I did a little bit of teaching with Pastor Reggie and Lifeline. And one of the things that I wanted him to know and say was, I said, in the beginning of the year, and thank God this happened, a lot of churches put people on a fast or recommended one.
That's right.
And it was a blessing that they did, because for some people whose immune systems were very out of whack because of the holiday eating.
Yeah.
And I believe that people eat out of order from October 31st to Super Bowl Sunday. And when the body isn't detoxed and cleansed, opening itself up to be the open door to receive this virus. And with our community being at the leaderboards of every single sickness that there is, I need us to wake up, because I believe this is a wake-up call.
Yes.
And if we don't get our immune systems up and where they should be, to me, that's what they need to be telling people, but they're not. They're not telling people to, of course, wash your hands. But I mean, before the virus, we had signs up telling you wash your hands. You still didn't wash them.
Right.
Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So why do I have to tell you to wash your hands and you're coming from the bathroom anyway? We're grown ups.
I don't even want to go there.
Yeah. So, and I said that to Pastor Reggie. I said, why are we doing that? I said, but since we have to do that, hopefully there'll be a lot more hand washing going on. And on top of that, now I said, even when I taught the class, when we talked about the toxins that are in our food and in our cleaning products and beauty products, I mean, we didn't leave anything unturned. We were way before our time. When all those things are check mark, then I believe that's when we'll see a difference in what's going on. I think that's when we're going to see a breakthrough with this COVID too, because right now I understand they're allowing people to go back to work. Why would you allow people to go back to work when, and the places that they're opening? Do we really need to be in the mall? Where are we going? We all at home in pajamas. Ain't nobody combing hair. We got COVID hair. Everybody has, I call it the Rona hair. We all have the Rona hair. And so we need to really sit back and reflect and think about what is it that God would have us do in this time. This is a real big reset. And I don't care what you do, because there's rich people at home and poor people at home. But the bottom line is, in the common denominator, we all sitting at home. Looking at four walls, trying to figure out what's our next move. But if God isn't in the next move, you still didn't get it.
Right.
You opening up nail salons and stuff like that. For what? That's one of the most, I used to own a salon for 16 years. It's one of the most toxic places, because I was told that my cancer, because of so many people that come in and out of that environment and all the chemicals that are smelled, that's how a lot of women are getting different types of breast cancers that metastasize to different areas because of all these chemicals. So no, you're not on medication, but you're breathing them. The fastest route to the brain is through the nasal cavity, right here.
Right.
The amygdala, which reaches the limbic center, which sends all the information through the body.
And isn't it amazing that the coronavirus, they were finding it behind the cavity there?
Yes. And then when people don't feel good, what do? Get in the bed, sleep. They don't move around. I mean, we don't feel good. Where are we moving to? We want to just lay down. Well, there was a nurse that said, don't lay down. Get up and walk around. Get those toxins moving out. Get them. So I recommend certain oils like frankincense, breathe. For those who don't know what that is, it has eucalyptus in it, peppermint, rosemary, oregano. On Guard, it has cinnamon and cloven. Those are some of the most powerful herbs that you can take, but you have to take them.
Yes. Did you mention the name of the oil company that you represent?
I represent doTERRA's oils, doTERRA International. doTERRA means gift of the earth. I love that, because they're concerned about the world. They were concerned about that before, because they want an oil in every home. And they said when people can get education and know how to take care of themselves, then they don't have to be tied to the system. I call it the medical merry-go-round that most people are on.
Yes.
And they can jump out of line and move forward. And so I have been able to, and I've been working with them for probably the last 10 years. And the kinds of things that they're doing by getting the oils in hospitals and clinics. And these are things that no other place is doing, because our oils are certified pure therapeutic grade, which means they're actually more potent than USDA standard or organic.
Yes.
And they work, I believe that this has to be the ones that God had, because, I mean, they work like his. I've watched my mother-in-law come out of a coma in 8 days. I watched my father-in-law, who had a stroke, right at the table with me. The stroke reversed within 10 minutes before the paramedics got there. So I know that they're powerful, and I know they work. That's something that I definitely know. But everybody has to, make their own decisions and their own choices. But I believe that essential oil should be a replacement of many people's medicine cabinets if it's something they choose.
And just for those that need the biblical foundation for that, if you go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 29, where God says, I've given you every herb-bearing
Bearing
seed, this is
seed.
to be your meat. And the oils come from the flowers. I mean, every part
They
of the flower,
do.
the leaves,
Stems, the
stems.
bark.
Yep.
The oils are likened, the way those oils come out of the tree, they line up with our body. The ones that are coming from the bottom are actually geared to the foundation of us. The ones that are
Mm.
seem to be light and airy are connected to the brain.
I
And
didn't know that.
when you start learning about them, you know that even the oils can change the emotions of how you feel.
That I do know.
So they told us that, and proven by one of the doctors that was doing some study that's been with essential oils and chemistry. They said that prayer is what is the I want to say the engine, if you will. But when you use oils, because when Jesus anointed with oils, he prayed and sent that energy from those oils to them, just like energy is in food or not in food. Dead foods have no energy, food does, real food does. So the same thing would happen. So that's how things could manifest so quickly. And we have the same power to be able to do all that. We just don't know and are not doing it.
We do. Just to give a quick testimony, I was once called to fulfill or provide massage therapy for a corporate client at a hotel. And I set up the table, and when they came out, they saw my doTERRA oils, and they said, "You use doTERRA?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Come with me." And she takes me to the little foyer that's right before you get to the back. The entire shelf is covered with doTERRA. Now she travels all over the world. She said, "I don't take medicine. This is my medicine." Had oils that were discontinued on doTERRA.
Probably, because we do have some, but we're in over 100 countries, and we've opened, and our oils are sourced by, sometimes families grow some specific oils because of the partnerships that doTERRA has made with them. They wanted to make sure that they weren't growing, because if you think about it right now, if they're about to shut meat plants, okay, because it may be a shortage of meat. I mean, people snatching toilet paper off the shelves because they're scared we're going to run out. But doTERRA was mindful enough, and God put in their hearts to make sure that they had enough to survive 5 years if a famine came on land. And they're right there. So their business went up by 400% and within like a couple of days of this COVID.
Amazing. And I've watched some of the videos in terms of where they source their oils, and they're very much concerned about sustainability.
Yes.
They work with the local the governments where they get certain oils from to make sure that they're feeding back into those communities. They're not there just stripping the land and exploiting the people. So that really rated high on my scales. Yeah. So it's an honor to be connected to a company like that. It's up there. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So I wanted you to share what other products or services that you offer so that people will know.
What I do? Yeah, other than being an essential oil expert, I actually, I'm a live food chef. So I do host classes to teach. First, my first, of course, line of defense is to make sure cancer patients and their families know how to prepare their foods better, or know what to use in a situation, because I feel that when one person is sick, the family is also sick because they have to be caretakers, and they need to know how to take care. So I've gone in and do some of those. Going and doing home makeovers, like in the kitchen, what I call poisons in the pantry, secrets under the sink. And so we want to make sure that we're able to teach people what is really going on in their home that's causing what they're dealing with. So we go in and do a home makeover, a health home makeover, I say it that way. I also do coaching. I coach and teach. I'd love to be on the sidelines watching people and cheering them on as they walk this journey. The goal is to teach them to eat more of a whole food, plant-based diet. And so teaching them the foods that I recommend, I call them God's bombs. These are the bomb foods to eat. And when you know how to eat them, they will give your body life like you have never ever experienced. And so that's really important. I do lots of speaking engagements and events if I can fit it in my schedule, traveling and not. Although right now nobody's traveling any place.
No one's traveling, right?
We're all doing a video. We do lots of that. I think I've been doing these since this coronavirus, almost every evening, to just make sure that you're helping people get information out. And then I run a Sunday night call called Essential Oils of the Bible, just to educate and bring specialists on to educate how to use them more effectively.
And anyone log on to the videos and the calls?
Oh, absolutely. You can go to audreelee.org and you can see all the wonderful things that we're doing actually for this month, because this is actually doTERRA's 12th anniversary. So I decided to do a couple of specials just to make sure people get a little bit more education. If they want to, they can go to my Facebook page, Audree Lee, or to audreelee.org. And there are some specials there till midnight tonight that if they want to, they can take part of and be blessed.
I will definitely go to your site to see what goodies you have there. I'm curious, what did you bring with you? What's on the table there?
So I bought that's funny, Adrienne. So I bought these recipes and things. A lot of times when people are asking me about what can I do for this or what can I do for that, I like to share some of those. Let me just say something.
Okay.
So yeah. So this one is actually one that talks about a cold fever tonic, and it is a recipe that one can take, and it's all food. I also have one, a natural lemonade, because for people that have a sweet tooth, they need to know how to make it healthy. Vegetable drink, nature's penicillin, the one I talked about. That's the one we used to give out for the students in class.
So what's that all about, the nature's penicillin?
So it's grapefruit, the peel, without the peeling. With the peeling, orange, lemon, garlic, onion, cayenne pepper. Blend this all together and you'll put it in the refrigerator and you'll take a teaspoon of it. But I actually want to decide to take it up a notch. And so since a lot of these are in the oil form and we get higher nutritional levels, vibration from the oils, I have people make this and put a drop of each one of those oils in there to take it up a notch.
Wow. So with you mentioning the penicillin, I just saw the word vaccine. Yeah. What is your heart that?
So unfortunately, I don't believe in vaccines. When I taught at the classes and at the church, I actually gave out a card from a friend of mine's. They lost their 3-year-old daughter to a vaccination. And they started a program called Educate Before You Vaccinate. And her name is Amy Tunsky. And that card that we would give out, on the back of it was the actual recipe of a vaccination. Because I said, stop putting things in your body that you don't know what they are. I said, do you know what that is? I said, do you know your immune system? You were made it, first of all. In Psalms 139, it says, we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
We're made after the image of God. You put a foreign substance in your body unknowingly just because the world tells you to do that. So we even had a letter that we were able to give out for people who decided that I don't think I want to do any more vaccinations. So her little girl died at 3. They fought and fought not to give this little girl the vaccination. They didn't believe in it. And they gave it to her and she passed away. And so the mother, this is her plight, to other mothers and parents, to give them education and know. But even when I was trained at the Gerson Institute, which I'm a health minister and a medical missionary.
Wait, did you say Gerson?
Gerson.
Gerson.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was trained at the Gerson Institute, and they even they taught at a level that you just don't get that anywhere. Learn how to be a caretaker at home, people, to show them what to do if someone has cancer. I became a medical missionary, studied under Meat Ministry out of Tennessee, to show how to open up a wellness facility so that you can have people come in and out and get protocols done. And then, of course, trained as a health minister through Hallelujah Acres. But I have that a lot of people don't know, because I've been to a lot of stuff, because when I wanted my body whole, I was going to make sure I covered everything. So I got trained from New York at the Integrated Institute of Nutrition. And I became a member of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. And I really am honored to be a part of that organization, because it covers so many, many things. And just to let people know, I don't do drugs. I don't do drugs.
Okay.
I'm drugless. And that's important for people to know. And to be a practitioner, the one of the trainings that I learned is there's so many different ways that we can check our bodies without going to the doctor and being prodded and prodded and stuck and
Mhm.
take this test and that test. Do you know that your body is so smart? The Holy Spirit is inside of you, and it'll tell you and even the people that you go to what's actually going on inside. Not to the point where it not only can tell you what's going on, like if you have a scar, it can tell you when the scar was there to repair and what you want to start with. The body is so smart, it can tell all that. And that's through
Yeah.
a protocol called QRA, quantum reflex analysis. And it's a
Mm.
technique. I remember seeing it on a television program. I said, I know how to do that. But
Oh,
that was
wow.
something that I was very interested in because it really checks the body's, all the organs, all the
Mhm.
systems, and they can tell whether they all are working properly. When it talks about interferences, like if you have scars in your body, tattoos, any of that kind of stuff, it
Mhm.
can tell you whether you have had good ink or bad ink. But it also can tell you if you
Wow.
have a scar, the scars interrupt the electricity from
Right.
flowing through the body. So that scar, when you do something called a mud pack, that's why playing in the mud was so important. It opens up that
Mhm.
channel, that vibration, and allows the flow now to go through so there's no more kinks like it would be before. And so somebody that would have a heart problem could have been because they had a scar and the energy wasn't coming in and out of the body flow like it needed
Through to
to.
the heart. Yeah.
That was one of the most amazing classes that I ever took.
You know what's so interesting? Had we had this conversation, I would say 10 years ago, I would have probably said, "Ooh, Audrey's into some new age stuff,"
I
because I was
know.
so ignorant and not understanding that the body is electric. The things that we've encountered is because of our ignorance, because we don't know how
Mm-hmm.
we're fearfully and wonderfully made.
It's true, but I'm so grateful that my time for this and what I do was when it started because I was way ahead of my time. I had no idea that I was, but
Yes.
a lot of the things that I knew are coming to fruition right now. People are
Yeah.
doing them and they said, wow, why aren't you still teaching living word? Do you know they should be having that? Do you know if the corona, before they were mentioning it, before it got so bad, we would have been having protocols to combat this right in a church so that everybody
Wow.
would have known. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I would have wanted to put in place because so many people have already gone and lost their lives, and we can't even honor them like we would want to because of the
I
way things
know.
are around us today. Oh, that's the part that hurts me so much.
I mean, even a couple of years ago, I was introduced, well, not personally, but I came across Dr. Sebi. To myself, we already know that from Audrey. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
know he's your senior, but I didn't know about him. I knew about you first. Yeah. Do you think that more churches will start adding the nutritional component to their ministries now?
Looking at what we're going through, I
Hmm.
believe that it's time. I believe that they will. I believe that God's going to speak to them in a place right now that they've never spoke to them before. One of the most hurtful deaths that I heard about, and this was before the corona, was Pastor Tony Evans' wife,
Oh,
and how he
wow.
shared how many people died. He talked about, I want to say it was 9 people in his family died within the year's time.
Oh,
His
my
wife being the
goodness.
last one, dying right before the end of the year. And I was looking at some of their video footage and stuff like that, and I said, my
Hmm.
Lord, people are really perishing for the lack of knowledge because a brother, a sister, a niece, a brother-in-law, a father, that's crazy to me. And so, and you still trust and lean on the Lord. But where else are you going to lean?
Of course.
Where else? But when I saw about, there was a videotape that was shown on food preparation by one of the family members. And when I saw it, I went, Lord, they didn't even know. I just said, Lord, they didn't even know because the foods that they were creating was creating the environment that they were dealing with. And they didn't even
Oh,
know.
wow.
And so when my sister shared that videotape with me, I couldn't put it down. Of course, it wasn't something I wanted to watch because I don't eat those foods, but I wanted to
Right.
see how in depth this problem really was. I said, oh, if I could only go in and do a transformation in their home,
Mm.
they could see life come back in a way that they could only know that God would be doing it. The other thing too, especially in our community, we're eating the very foods that are putting us into an early grave. I used to say,
Right.
I have a name of a book that I've been working on, and it's called Are You Casket Ready? And said that 50% of the people that have diabetes don't even know it.
Don't
They have
know.
no idea. So this is bigger than just preconditions, because some of the conditions are conditions that people don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, well, what you just said, do you think that churches, look, I believe that they should.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's time. I'm tired of going to churches and they serve us the very foods that are putting people in the early grave.
Oh.
I go, why are you serving slushies for Sunday morning service? Don't nobody need no slushie in the morning?
You saw slushies?
Slushies. I go, come on with the come on. I said, y'all serving the King of Kings. Y'all couldn't serve that stuff to him. He wouldn't
Mm.
eat it. And that's why I tell people, think about it. Would you be able to serve what you're serving yourself to him
Mm.
first? That's when you think about when you're having company, you want the
Mm-hmm.
best.
Best.
Is that the best?
Best.
No,
Wow.
he created all of that, and you're going to serve him the scraps.
Mm.
So I just think it's time. I don't know how many lessons that need to be learned out there, but I believe that not only will the churches get on board, but I believe that some of these celebrities too need to get on board and help with this message.
Wow. They do. And I've seen some get on board already.
Mm-hmm.
The young man that was murdered last year, Nipsey Hussle, he was
Yes,
on fast pace with that.
he
Yeah.
was. And
One of the
you got to be
things that
careful.
I wanted to emphasize is that God, like you said, he's all knowing, all seeing. He made us. And in conversations that I've had with some, especially in the body of Christ or Christians,
Mm-hmm.
is the emphasis being placed on God is our healer. And he is.
Mm-hmm.
By Jesus' stripes, we were
Mm-hmm.
already healed.
Yeah.
And James, it tells us if there is any sick among you, bring them to
Call
the
it.
elders,
Mm-hmm.
laying hands and healing them with the oil. I look at God providing both on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
on the responsive health, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the preventative, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
is the Genesis 1:29.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor David and I, we agree on something where healing is from God, it is divine, it is holy, but it's really not God's best for us, is that we never even get sick, and it is possible.
I do too. I agree totally with that. And I remember having that conversation with Pastor David as well.
Mhm.
And he too having the oil in his office. I said, don't just put any oil in that little bottle over there, because you got to have the best.
Hi,
Don't
Pastor
just get it
David, if
off the
you're
shelf.
watching.
Yeah, it's so important. And he said he didn't even know why he had a drawing to essential oils. I said, because they're God's medicine. That's
Yes,
why. And we all should have them. And I believe one day we will, just like we get to know him. Everybody doesn't know him, but one day we hope before they leave this earth that they will. And I said, I believe that to be the same with essential oils. So knowing all of that and doing all that we're doing, because it wasn't just me that shared this message. This message had to have a baton passed to you and you and you, so the message
yes,
can go more abroad than what it's already gone. And I
yes.
thank God that it's doing it. I thank God for your work. I remember bumping into you at one of the churches out there,
Yeah,
knowing that we're like-minded, you're ministering the same message, so people could know that this is a real message of truth.
it is. It is. Wow. I think we may have a question. Let me see what's here, okay? We
Somebody
can,
asked about sugar. I see that. Let me answer the question about sugar.
mhm.
Okay, I call sugar the devil, because it
Yes,
is.
I do too.
It really
It's
jacks up the
demonic.
body. If you don't think it's demonic, give it to a child and see how they act. And so it's really connected to every medication. You heard that saying, just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Huh.
It does.
It
Because
does.
if you had to take it, you wouldn't want to, just like the things you don't like, you wouldn't want to do that. But
Right.
because it's inundated with into just about everything that we eat, every condiment, it's in every meat. Everything that we're addicted to, sugar is connected to, from cocaine or drugs
Mm.
to the food that you eat. I can tell you that Dr. McCullough did some in-depth studies on a lot of these connections, and I never forget when I saw how they injected meat with sugar, because they know that's what keeps people addicted. That's one of the reasons why we have to
Yes.
be mindful to get off of it, because our bodies don't need it like we think that it does. When
Hmm.
I taught in the first class at Living Word, God's Plan, I taught how people didn't even get sick for thousands of years after meat was
Hmm.
introduced to the diet. But if I said, is there a substitute for sugar? There absolutely is. God made liquid candy. It's called fruit. And I know you may not like fruit, but if you have to sweeten things, use dates, use figs, use raisins. Make sure they don't have
Yeah, I
sugars
use
added,
dates.
because sometimes people use them, but they don't pay attention that on the side of the package, it says sugar. But there's a lady by the name of Nancy Appleton, and she
Oh yeah.
has done a bang up job on the education of the different types of sugars and where it's hidden
Yeah.
and the things that sugar does to the body. It cripples the body. That's why you have so many people with high blood pressure, arthritis, crippling diseases. And so that particular printout, which you can go to our website and get it, you can see all the problems that sugar brings to the body and more. And right now, you definitely don't want to eat sugar if you don't,
Not
with this
now.
coronavirus and how it's shutting the body down, leave that sugar on the shelf. That's what I tell people. So use some of those things. And people go, I told someone to do that the other day. A date? I'm putting no date in my cup. I said, well, what you want to do is you want to blend it up and turn it into a paste. That's what they did anyway, is liquid syrup. And
Right.
then you want to put it in your food and cook with it. Yeah. I use it in my salad dressings. I make my salad dressings from fruits and things like that. I don't eat processed, because sugar's all in every dressing that we eat and every processed food. So we just have to be mindful where we're getting our sugar from. And so what are some substitutes for sugar? And if it has to be a liquid sugar, there's something called monk fruit,
Yeah, I
M-O-N-K.
have
I'm not
monk
a
fruit
big,
as well.
yeah, I'm not a big eater of a lot of processed packaged things, but if people are transitioning, just like you talked about moving over, if you're
Yes.
moving over, you can do 100% organic maple syrup grade B. They use that in the master cleanse, or Manuka honey. Manuka honey is not like any honey. It's not the honey in the bear either. Like Pooh Bear, it's not that kind of honey. It
No, it's
it
not.
has a really thick resin, like it's really, really, really thick, but it smells medicinal. But it can be used on the skin, on the body. It has a lot of health benefits, and those are the ones that I would say. But the biggest thing is try to revert, get off of it some. Don't try to find it or put in your body every day. If you can get off it as much as possible, do that, because what you're going to find is headaches go away, pain goes away, inflammation goes away, cancers go away, diabetes goes
Arthritis goes
away.
away. Arthritis.
It's connected to all of that. And so if you want to say it go away, I say, if you can't do it 7 days, try for 3 days and listen to your body and see what your body tells you. There's a summit that's out about sugar that I tell people to go and find it on YouTube and watch those. But there's some awesome videos and movies that I always tell people to watch back in class and even today. Watch these. If you got a pen and a piece of paper, write these down. Food Matters. That's one of them.
Food
Forks
matters.
Over Knives. That's the biggest study about the protein problem that we are dealing with today.
Right.
What the Health?
Yep.
Because you want to know what the health is going on, That's a good one. Plant Pure Nation. That one actually is by the son of the man that did the Forks Over Knives. And Linda, do you know what Forks Over Knives, why he named it Forks Over Knives?
Oh, because the cancer industry with them, wasn't it regarding choosing the fork over surgery?
Exactly, because
Yes.
somebody said, so it's forks over knives, so you're trying to find out why you're putting the fork over it. And I said, no, it has nothing to do with you putting your fork over it when you cut your steak. I said, no, it's whether you choose a knife for surgery or a fork for healing your body. And so that's what I highly recommend. And the one that probably a lot of people haven't seen is Eating, EATING. They probably have the 4th edition. But that one has a lot of athletes and doctors who all had cancers and things like that, and how their body recovered from a plant-based diet. Those are some of the ones I tell everybody to watch, because they're probably some of the most powerful, and they're game changers. I see a question. What's good for anxiety? Okay. For anxiety, which is what a lot of people are dealing with today.
Yes.
There's one oil that I can tell you that was instrumental and really phenomenal with a lot of the studies for depression, and it was called, I got a piece of hair in my eye almost. It's called Wild Orange. And wild orange, you think about all the citrus plants and things that we, fruits and things that we eat, but wild orange was very instrumental in a study done at Vanderbilt Hospital for depression in the ER. What they did was they didn't take it and turn it, they didn't put it on top of it, they just diffused it. And when they diffused it, because I mentioned that the amygdala right here, amygdala is the fastest route to the brain. That's why when you go to a dentist or have surgery, they put the mask on. They're trying to get a communication signal to the brain. So when they put the oil in a diffuser, which I have one right over here to my right, I should have brought it up where one could see it. When you put the diffuser on, you're changing your brain. You're changing the communication center, which is what we need to do with our children and ourselves. And so in those 30 days and less, they changed depression from 60% to 6%, in some areas 3%.
How many
That was a
days?
game changer. In 30 days and less.
Wow.
And they actually were doing this to see if they could change the atmosphere of the workers. And if you want to see it, it's on Fox News YouTube channel. Just put essential oils and Vanderbilt Hospital, and you'll see it come up. That was a game changer. So I would recommend that you diffuse it. You know, go to my website. I'm offering a lot of stuff. If you tell me that you listened to Linda's webinar today, I'll give you a wild orange if you go there. I mean, and that's not even up there, but as long as I know when you go in and register and you make a note that you saw this this particular webinar, I'll make sure you get some wild orange. And what you want to do is diffuse it, because I don't want you using toxic oils out there, because those can be just as bad as eating bad food, and you definitely don't want to do that. So get a citrus blend and use those for anxiety. There's some other ones. I have one of them.
I'm glad you said that in terms of toxicity.
Yeah, this is called
Because
adaptive.
A lot of people don't know that a lot of these oils that may say pure, that's not the case.
Yeah, that's true. And our oils, because they're in hospitals, we have them in Alzheimer's facilities. We've done studies in schools, changing the atmosphere of the students. We did one just for, well, we went in to do it for one reason, I'll just say that. And what we found out that happened was detoxicating the area was that all the Petri dishes in the science labs, it killed all the bacteria and viruses on the Petri dishes by diffusing it. And the absenteeism, sicknesses, and all that went down for the first time in history, lower than it's ever been, because we diffused not wild oils, but On Guard, our protection blend. And that protection blend was one of the oils that actually we've been using for this environment right now to help to change the atmosphere.
Yeah, I believe every home should have diffusers.
Me too.
Yeah, I really believe that.
Yeah, that's the biggest blessing to me by far, and to let people know that God created these plants. This isn't, it's not about us. It's not something we did. We don't have any clue about how these plants even work. But what we do know is that they do work. You know, they work when you work them, just like when you eat the right food. It works. We have to get back to the beginning from where we began.
Yes, and I believe also that sometimes some people don't recognize that the pharmaceuticals are actually trying to duplicate the plant.
They are. So we eat all the bad foods, go take the medicines, when we can go right to the food and fix all of that. That's a train wreck ready to happen.
It is. So we're going to wrap up, but in closing, was there anything that was on your heart that you've been thinking about and that you wanted to share? You just feel that people really need to know that we have not discussed at this point?
You know, I just want to tell people that are listening, especially because we don't know how long this COVID virus and this situation is going to be the way that it is. Do the best you can to eat the best foods possible, even when you don't feel like eating them, because nobody wants to take medication, but nobody wants to be sick. So if you can eat the best foods, make it a choice, a decision to go out and get foods that cause your body to live, thrive, and survive, and not foods that would tear your body down, break it down, and cause it to self-destruct. And when you begin to do those things, it includes drinking water. Now, I have to say that you do want to drink water, because water is actually about 70% of your body is made out of water. I know you can't tell when you look in the mirror, but it is. Just these are some of the pinpointed things that I shared with Pastor Reggie and the people that were listening, the audience. Get proper rest, because there's proper rest and then there's not proper rest, right? So make sure that you're getting in the bed at a decent hour and making sure that you get good sleep, because sometimes we're under so much stress that we can't rest. We can't relax. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on in our brain. But if you just start doing these things for the next 7 days, you're going to see a big difference. Don't forget to wash your hands, and don't just stay 6 feet, as I told people, away from each other. Try to stay 6 feet away from that refrigerator.
I just saw a question pop up about inflammation. I don't think a lot of people know that dairy is one of the primary conduits for inflammation and mucus form. Because in the movie, What the Health, did you see what they were showing with the cow's milk? It was all pus.
Right. And in class, what I tell people that eating pus, they get mad at me. Don't call my food pus. I go, I'm not calling it food. I'm just telling you what it is.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at me because I'm just telling you. That's like me calling your name Linda. Don't call me Linda, but that's your name. Look, I served well, and I served that class as I felt God would have wanted me to. I felt like I was sometimes a different person, because I really felt the anointing in and through me when I would be in that class, because I knew that whatever information that came out of my mouth, I had to be responsible for, and I wanted to make sure God was downloading whatever anybody in those seats needed.
Absolutely. How do you feel, as we mentioned dairy, how do you feel about the replacement nut milks?
Oh, so nut milks, I don't have a problem eating nut milks. I just tell people, make sure that you don't do the ones with sugar and all these other things that are added to them. You can make it by yourself, and they're actually even healthier. So if you don't want to do the nuts and soaking and all of that, because people, it ain't too much work. But so you can use the nut milk, make the nuts out of there, the milk out of the nuts, and then you can make those nuts out of something else. But if you don't use the nut butter and just put it in there, make sure it's organic and use that, because we have our granddaughter on nut milk versus this toxic stuff. She had a seizure.
Wow.
When she had that seizure, she's one. I was feeding her and I looked over, she, oh my God, it scared me. I cannot tell you, but I had to stay in my space. And I was screaming for her parents to come, because I was trying to control the seizure. And he finally came down. He was taking a shower, so he didn't even hear me. But when he came down and saw me, he almost fell down the steps. But I said, call 911. I was calling their Siri box or whatever it was, everything but what his name was. It was Google. And I just couldn't get it out. I was in a panic. But I just ran upstairs once he grabbed her and got, the paramedics told him to turn her to the side. I ran and got my oils. I put that frankincense on her. The body just calmed down. Calmed down. And they took her just to get checked out, and she would have come home back home that evening.
Whoa, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So we already have what we need. We just need to use it.
Not waiting for it to be invented either.
Right. Absolutely. Just like with this virus, they're waiting for the scientists to come up with vaccines when God has already given us the solution.
He is the scientist. Listen to him.
Yes.
And let him have his way.
Let him have his way. Do you see any other questions on the screen? I don't see anything over here.
Other than the inflammation, I will tell that person who has inflammation and pain that if you're eating any of the foods that I mentioned, those are some that you want to just do the backward flip off of, or the electric slide away from, however you have to do it. But don't feel like you have to do everything at once, because when we did the class, like I mentioned before, we removed one food a week. And the body started improving every week. So that's how testimonies were able to come, because people were able to see each week when they removed the food, what it did for their health. And I would highly suggest that that person do the same thing. Add those fruits and vegetables to the body. Your fruits are your cleanser. Fruits are your cleansers. They clean and restore the body through cleaning it. And your vegetables are your builders. So they build back and restore the body back into the places that it needs to be. So don't forget that.
Wonderful. There's someone here. I gave her a recipe for ice cream because she loves ice cream. So I told her to get bananas, freeze them, add cacao powder, coconut milk, and she wrote me and told me that she loved it.
It is the
And
bomb.
she blended up. Yeah.
Oh, my granddaughter, who's a year and a half, and the one that's 7 months, they slurp that stuff up like, oh my goodness, Mimi, this is the best. And it is. It's better
Yeah.
for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Audrey Lee, I so appreciate you. You are a gift not only to the body of Christ, but to the entire world.
Thank
And I
you.
believe that there are many doors that God has opened for you. And I just pray that the seeds that you have will be received, that they will go into good soil and bring
Thank
forth the
you.
harvest that God
Thank
has
you so
ordained.
much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So you so much. And I can hardly wait to get reconnected via doTERRA and be on some of those calls. So I'm inviting you all,
Absolutely.
when you see the information on Audrey's page, go to her videos, go to her phone calls, and just continue to add. We need to build our knowledge base, because that's how we can operate in wisdom. If you don't have the knowledge, then you're not able to operate in wisdom.
That's right.
Let's see. Thanks, Linda,
Oh, you're
and good to
welcome.
you again, Audrey.
Oh,
Hi,
amen.
Jacqueline.
Hi. Oh, hi. Thanks again.
Okay. Good night, everyone. And once
Good
again, this
night.
is Vibrant Health and Wellness Coaching. I am your Vibrant Health and Wellness Coach, Linda Howard, lighting the path to a brighter and healthy life. And as I always say, if you're going to live, choose to live vibrantly. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, Audrey.
You're welcome. Good night.